Hi, I'm Audrey Hope, and welcome to Real Women. Women have been taught wrong from the beginning and assaulted by ideas that are not their own. From culture, family, media, and religious symbols, we learn to betray our feminine power and replace it with woundings of self-judgment, guilt, punishment, and pain. Yet it is the hope that men and women will be alert to these misteachings and to know that when you deny the gifts of one half of humanity, when you deny the woman's story, you affect the balance of everything and the great plan. My guest today is a teacher. Her name is Becky Loving. Becky Loving has taught everything from math to meditation to everyone from gifted children to emotionally disturbed kids. She has started Touchstone Educational Services in San Marino, and she is here today to talk about her new book called The Feminine Law, The Female Side of Spiritual Law. Welcome, Becky. It seems that we as women suffer so much from laws that we don't know exist. And it also seems, as you had said, that if it's a mistake that someone has made, then it can be simply corrected. You know, what is feminine law?
Feminine law is the law of Mother God. It is a beautiful law that is circular. It is a law of process rather than product. And it is the law that works from the healing of woman inside with respect to the absolute truth that we are daughters of the mother and the father, and as such can begin our healing and our empowerment from that position.
Yes, the feminine structure.
Yes.
What is an example of the feminine law in practice?
One of the interesting practices of feminine law is the great respect that is given to nurturing, and thus the great respect that is given to rest. We live in a culture where, in corporate America, the badge of honor is your first heart attack before you're 45. And we see that as a wonderful way to work and live. So we send sympathy cards, but we have great admiration for that person who went all the way. Feminine law would ask the very real question, all the way to what? When healing and rest are a part of your honoring, they're a part of your spiritual law, you are going to find yourself with an increase of power and an increase of health, simply because you've come into the position where you have laws to support nurturing.
Mm-hmm. And let's say things that cross our path as women. There's so much.
Yes.
There's, I can just name a few, depression,
yes,
anxiety. What is a feminine way to approach these problems?
Yes. The most important thing when we're approaching the things that cross our path is to remember the first feminine law, which is make all of your alignments with heaven. That's another way of saying, before you move forward to heal something that's happening in your life or to make changes that are going to be positive ones, first make those changes from the position of the knowledge of who you are. Know that you have the right to ask for what the mother and father of the universe would want you to have as a child. Understand that your healing is something that you don't have to do alone. Then you would want to begin to see how that altered your view of depression or whatever was plaguing you at the time. As women without our law, of course, we go into the situation of looking at our depression critically. We wouldn't be depressed if we had only done something perfectly. And that, of course, leaves us in the grip of a judgment that's not going to allow us to see what we really need to do.
Is this what you call the law of perfection?
Absolutely. This is the law of perfection that we suffer under in many ways in our culture. Certainly if you pick up a magazine to see the perfect woman in the magazine and know that you will never be that perfect woman, but here she is. We find out later, of course, that she's been airbrushed into perfection.
Yes.
And that's a sad thing. We have been ruled by something that doesn't exist. This is our goal, and yet it's not real. And that perpetual striving for a perfection that doesn't exist is also the thing that makes it hard for us to understand how to heal. The wound itself is judged. I'm depressed. And I am woman, I'm the one who messed up the thing in the garden. I am the seductress. I am the one who taunted poor man into sin. And so it's a given that this depression is probably something I deserved.
So we're walking around with these woundings.
Absolutely.
And what would be the correct way to view the wound?
Yes. If you are walking in a feminine law and you find that you are depressed, you are given to understand through the laws that that depression is a signal of imbalance and actually needs to be embraced and loved rather than judged. Now, when you begin to understand that these are things that do cross our path, but they are actually allies. If we can come to them lovingly, then you begin to develop a great power to heal your own life. If I was going to make a comparison between depression and physical pain, if we understand the nature of physical pain, we know that it is to alert us to an imbalance. And if we use that pain as a way to understand what has gone out of balance, then the pain has actually served as a friend and as a healer. And that pain can lead us to something that could very well save our lives. This is equally true of our emotional life. If we say, the depression is speaking to me, it is a teacher. It is not judging me. It is speaking to me about something that I need to hear. And when I hear that, I can then empower my own growth and my own healing.
Where do these judgments come from? I mean, what is our belief system, and how, I mean, I'm sure it's come from how we're raised as children.
Yes. From the very beginning, what happens for women, and actually, quite frankly, for the feminine knowing that is in men as well, is that because it is considered inferior and weaker, we begin to stop the natural forward movement in the developing of feminine wisdom. We are taught, particularly as women, that that's not a good place to go. When we're very young, we all run together, and we run together with great glee and joy.
Absolutely.
And then one day, someone says, very often, unfortunately, a woman, dear, you have beat that poor boy in this race now 3 times. Think how bad he must feel. Don't beat him in this race again. And that's the beginning of kind of an awestruck sort of guilt that begins to go into the body, because before this you thought the expression of who you are as a woman was a wonderful thing. You could take joy in the fact that you were fast, and now in the middle of that, guilt. And also the beginning of a very insidious indoctrination that continues through the years, and that is that your purpose here as a good woman is to make sure that no one ever feels bad. That teaching, of course, completely eliminates what you feel, what you need, and your own expression.
And that is natural for us.
That's
it becomes
natural
very
for
natural.
us. Very
let's
natural
say you have
for
a
us.
gift too.
Yes.
A gift, let's say, to play the piano, or
absolutely.
And your parents don't really nurture that gift. You
That's
walk around
right.
feeling like you've hurt someone your whole life.
Absolutely. You have been denied that. You've been denied that in school. There's a certain age in studies we find where girls are no longer asked to help the teacher move the textbooks from one place to the other. That isn't a favor. That's a disavowal of feminine strength. And because the wall drops and drops and drops, there comes a time when we simply don't bring it forward anymore. It's much too painful.
Yes. So how do we take simple steps to heal?
The alignment, as I mentioned before,
Yes.
which is the first feminine law, is the most important thing. That will give you energy then for the second step, which is to see the wound without making a wrong assumption about the wound. In other words, here's a wound. It does not mean you're bad. It does not mean you did something wrong. It simply means there's an imbalance, and we want to learn about that. That then empowers you in the feminine way, which is in the way that moves through your heart and through your love. So you literally go to yourself as the Great Mother would,
Yes.
with love and saying, let me help you. And that's what's happening inside of you. Oh, we need help. How can I help me here? The nurturing then assumes what I think of as its first position. I believe nurturing, like charity, should begin at home. Mm-hmm. And here's home. So with that knowledge, you come to yourself in a nurturing way about your wound. You can then put aside the judgment of it, which keeps you in the constant cycle of wounding and frustration, because clearly you haven't done it perfectly yet. And then you can begin to look at the wound as the teacher it truly is. If you are depressed, something is not being nourished in your life. Something is not having room to express. Something is not having room to empower. And whatever that is, if we can align, remove the judgment, we can begin then to contemplate lovingly what that might be.
Yes, and you also speak in a circle,
Yes.
as a healing in a circle, because too many times we think, well, once I get there, it will all be okay. But first I have to
Yes.
get there.
Right.
But if we change it to view it as a circle,
Mm-hmm.
that's the feminine way.
Absolutely. There's a wonderful book called Spontaneous Healing by Andrew Weil, I believe. And he makes a wonderful physical analogy that really does express this. He notes that the body is really not intended to always be well. The body cycles. There are certain times of weakness and strength. What the body is intended to do is to heal. So the focus then does not go to the physical problem as a wrong thing. It goes to the capacity of the body to heal. So what is constantly being accented is not the weakness of what might be crossing the path of your body or your spirit, but of the strength of the natural, powerful healing that lives in all of us if we can honor it.
Yes, so you're really talking about how, again, we perceive our problems.
Absolutely.
In other words, if let's say I have a problem as a child and I've worked on it, and then
Yes,
later on
yes.
in my life it comes up again. I might, as a woman, say, oh my God, is this karma?
Right,
What
right.
did I do wrong?
What did
Why
I
is
do
this coming
wrong?
up again? Didn't I take care of this problem?
Absolutely.
And actually what it is, according to feminine law, is another part of the problem being worked on.
Absolutely. One of the beautiful shapes that appears in feminine law that does not appear in patriarchal law is the spiral. And when you look at a spiral, it's moving, moving, moving up. And what happens is that the issues that we're going to encounter that are, shall we say, dominant in this lifetime, are going to be put on that spiral. So we will learn about the important issue, perhaps at the mental level first. And then we'll go up and we'll find it again. And there is a chance now to perhaps learn about it emotionally. and it comes up again, and here's another chance. So in feminine law, all this is understood as not only natural, but extremely beneficial, because as you move, you learn more about it. And in that learning, not only are you able to heal more for yourself, but it enables you to be a healer for others too. If you only learned about it in your mind, then that's the only way you can ever serve. But if you enter that spiral lovingly, knowing that the father and the mother smile on that spiral and will assist you on that spiral, you become expanded and light and fearless. You are no longer judged then by the process of your life.